everyone. It's the night before Thanksgiving and I've already got most everything ready to go. What I'm going to do now is make some Thai tea that we're going to be having for Thanksgiving tomorrow by special request. So the first thing I'm going to need is a gallon of water and 2 cups of Thai tea. And what we're going to do first is we're going to take the gallon of water and bring it to a boil. Okay, here we are. We're going to turn our heat on high. And we're going to put our gallon of water in here. And I'm using filtered water because I want to make sure that it is the best water that I can possibly get. And we're going to wait for just a few minutes and let that boil. Our water has come to a boil, and it's 8 cups of water that I started. And I'm going to use 2 cups of Thai tea leaves. And you can get those at an Asian store or online. If you wanted to half this recipe, because this is a lot, you could do 1 cup of tea for 8 cups of water. So I'm just going to sprinkle the tea in there, and it's boiling. And be careful and don't get this on you because it makes a mess. I'm going to use my whisk, and I'm just going to get it nice and stirred in there. And this is going to make about a gallon of tea. And I'm going to turn it down a little bit because I don't want it to boil over. So, now that that's in there, I'm going to put this someplace safe, because if you set it on your cabinet, you're going to have red cabinet. So we're going to let this kind of simmer and steep. Some people let it boil, then turn it off and let it set. I'm going to turn mine down pretty low because I don't really want it to boil and I don't want to let it set. And it's going to steep for about, on low heat, for about 15 minutes. That's going to make a really strong tea. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. Alright, we're back with our Thai tea. We have the gallon of boiling water that we boiled. We put in 1 gallon of water, which is 1 gallon of water, which is 16 cups. We added 2 cups of Thai tea. Let the water boil. When it started boiling, we added the tea, turned it down to low. Just gave it a little stir, and we've stirred it a few times since then. All the tea leaves have settled to the bottom. Now we are going to strain it, and we're going to do it 2 times. We don't have a traditional sock strainer, so we're going to start off with just like a big, unfortunately this is nasty and rusty, but it'll do the job. A big strainer to get rid of the majority of the tea leaves. And we're going to let that set for just a minute. I'm going to get out the rest of these tea leaves. Oops. We'll let that set for just a minute. And then we're going to do a second straining. We've had our first straining. Now what I did is I cleaned out the pot that we had boiled the tea in. Here's my other tea. At this point, you can use a coffee strainer. What I'm using is the one that came with, instead of like a coffee filter, I'm using the one that came with our coffee pot, which is like a silk almost. I'm going to hold this. Since there's not going to be a lot of problems with it, it's okay to hold it. I'm just going to pour the tea back in here. It is hot, so be careful. And you can see we missed quite a few tea leaves in there. So that's a good reason to do a second straining. Now I'm going to wash these out and do another straining. Not another straining, what am I saying? I'm going to wash these out and then put the tea back in here. I've put the tea back in the main pitcher, and now it's time to add the sugar. The recipe calls for 4 cups of sugar. 4 cups of sugar is a lot of sugar. So you'll probably want to do it to your taste level. If you're just making half a recipe, start with 1.5 cups of sugar. If you're making this one, start with 3. I have 4 in my container, but I'm just going to put in about 3 to start with. Yep. And I'm going to stir it up until it's well dissolved. And since this is still warm, it's going to dissolve pretty fast. I'm also going to add in some more water. This is, like I said, purified water or filtered water to get it back up to the level it was, because I don't want to have too much. I don't want it to be too strong. I don't drink it quite that strong. And actually the sugar has dissolved. I'm going to get a spoon and test it. That is pretty sweet. I'm probably going to add a little bit more, so, because you do dilute it a little bit. So that's probably about 3.5 cups of sugar. And that's all I'm going to put. Alright, I'm going to let that dissolve and stir it up a little bit. And then I'm going to put the cap on it before I make a mess. And then this is the brewed part, and now let's go ahead and create the actual Thai tea. We have our tea, or the brewed part of the tea, which we're going to put into a glass of ice. And we're going to leave a little bit of space at the top, just enough. And I'm going to use evaporated milk. You could also use sweetened condensed milk. You can use cream. You can use half and half. You can use regular milk. Whatever you want to use. And this is, of course, making a mess. That is, if you get really close, I chose this glass because you can really kind of see it falling down and through there. You stir it up, and it turns a nice orangey color. And then it tastes fantastic, just like in a restaurant. And that is Thai tea.